Commander Saris Val leaned over the holographic map, her eyes scanning the lines and symbols of the Orion sector. The stars outside the Luminara's observation deck stretched endlessly, like a black sea dotted with silver lights. She had spent most of her life studying history, exploring archives and learning about civilizations long gone. Yet one legend always irritated her, the story of humans, a race said to have possessed unmatched courage and skill in battle, now supposedly extinct. Her instructors had called them a mythical example of bravery, stories told to inspire soldiers and explorers alike. Saris, practical and logical, had dismissed them as exaggerations. No race could survive such odds for so long without leaving clear records, she muttered to herself. Humans only exist in stories. But her crew had discovered something that might challenge her beliefs. A faint distress signal had been detected on the edge of the quarantined Vraxel conflict zone. The area had been abandoned for centuries, left to drift in silence after a devastating war. Most Valari ships avoided it entirely. Protocol demanded they report and leave it to enforcement fleets. But Saris's curiosity, stronger than any rule, pushed her to act. "The signal is weak," Lieutenant Mara reported, her voice tense as she adjusted the ship's sensors. "It doesn't match any known Valari frequency." Saris nodded. "Unknown or ancient," she said. "Prepare the landing party. We're going in." The Luminara glided silently through the nebula, its hull reflecting the soft blue light of distant stars. The closer they approached, the more Saris noticed the silence of the abandoned war zone. No patrol ships, no signals, nothing but empty debris floating like ghosts in the void. When the ship's scanners finally locked onto the source of the distress signal, a structure appeared on the screen, a derelict station, half buried in the remains of destroyed satellites and asteroid fragments. Its design was unfamiliar, far older than anything in the Valari archives. Saris frowned. "This architecture, it isn't ours, and it doesn't match the Zarth records either." Lieutenant Mara looked worried. "We should proceed with caution. There could be automated defenses or other survivors." Saris smiled faintly. "That's exactly why we're going." The landing party descended into the station through a reinforced airlock, their boots echoing in the cold corridors. The walls were lined with strange markings, symbols and figures unlike any language they had studied. Saris traced one with her fingers, feeling the smooth, cold metal beneath her gloves. "This is older than any Valari colony we know," she murmured. "And there's a story here that we're about to uncover." The distress signal led them to a heavily secured chamber at the station's core. A single cryopod rested there, surrounded by metal panels etched with symbols. The pod's life indicators were faint, almost imperceptible. Saris knelt beside it, scanning the readouts. "This is extraordinary," she whispered. "It's alive," her crew stared in shock. "Alive?" Mara echoed. "After all this time?" Saris nodded. "It seems, yes, but I can't tell what species. The scanners can't identify it clearly." With careful precision, they opened the pod. The hissing of pressurized gas filled the chamber, and the pod's lid slid back to reveal a figure inside. "A human figure," Saris froze. The stories had never prepared her for this. She had expected myths, tales of courage and stubborn survival, but nothing real. And yet there he was, sleeping in suspended animation, a human being in front of her eyes. The being stirred. Eyes flickered open, alert and sharp, scanning the room in a mix of confusion and focus. He was tall, with broad shoulders and the faint outline of worn armor beneath the cryosuit. His gaze fell on Saris, steady and unwavering, as though measuring every detail. Saris felt a shiver run down her spine. He's alive," she said quietly, more to herself than anyone else. The human spoke, his voice low but strong, fragmented at first. "Where am I?" Lieutenant Mara quickly activated the translation device. The words came through clearly. "You are safe. You are aboard a Valari vessel." "Who are you?" The human struggled to sit, his movements deliberate and careful. "Captain Ryan Hale, Terran Defense Force." The words were measured, each one seeming to carry the weight of centuries. Saris's eyes widened. "Terran, humans, you're real." Hale's gaze didn't waver. "I am last survivor." His voice faltered slightly, not from weakness, but from memory and time. "Cryo, for 9 centuries." The crew exchanged astonished glances. The humans of legend, those stories she had dismissed, were no myth. They were real. And one stood here in the middle of the abandoned station, as if to challenge every assumption Saris had ever held. As Hale adjusted to his surroundings, he began to scan the station. His movements precise, trained, and purposeful. Station. Secure. Check all systems. His words were commands, not requests. Saris noticed the way he moved, confident and sharp. The myths had said humans were stubborn, unpredictable, and capable of impossible feats. And she could see it in him now. Suddenly, alarms blared. The cryopod had triggered a signal, ancient and automated, sending a pulse out into deep space. The distress signal had not only awakened Hale but had called attention from far beyond the Orion sector. Saris turned to Mara. What did he do? Mara's fingers flew over the console. He activated something. A beacon, someone. Or something is coming. Hale's eyes narrowed. Enemies. Coming, fast. Prepare. Defenses. The Volari crew moved quickly, following his instructions as though instinctively understanding the authority in his voice. Saris felt a mixture of awe and apprehension. Here was a being thought extinct, commanding with skill that rivaled any modern AI or fleet officer. Who are you? Saris asked finally, stepping closer. How did you survive? Why are you here? Hale looked at her, his gaze unwavering. Duty, survival. Humanity, never. Dice. The words struck her deeply. She had always believed the stories were exaggerations, meant to inspire rather than record truth. Yet now, faced with this living legend, she understood the magnitude of what she had discovered. Humans had fought wars, endured impossible odds, and left behind a legacy that even time could not erase. The crew worked in silence as they prepared the station for possible threats. Sensors scanned the surrounding nebulae, but nothing appeared yet. Still, Saris knew the calm would not last. The beacon Hale had activated was old, but it was powerful. Whatever it was calling would arrive soon. As she watched Hale inspect the ancient station's systems, she realized something else, something she had never admitted before. This human was not only a survivor, he was a warrior, one who could teach them, challenge them, and perhaps even change the course of history in ways she could not yet imagine. Sarah stepped back, letting the crew follow Hale's lead. For the first time in her life, she felt a mix of excitement and fear. The thrill of standing on the edge of a story she had always dismissed as fiction, now made real by a man who had walked through time itself. Prepare for arrival, Hale said quietly, almost to himself. They will come, and we must be ready. Saris nodded, feeling a newfound resolve. If humans can survive 900 years, maybe we can survive this too. Together. Outside, the stars continued to stretch endlessly, a vast, dark canvas waiting to witness the arrival of legends. And within the abandoned station, the last human warrior had awoken, ready to face a universe that had almost forgotten him. For Saris, the myths were no longer stories. They were real, and she would never doubt them again. The hum of the Luminara's engines filled the station, as Commander Saris Val watched Captain Ryan Hale move with careful, deliberate steps. Every motion was precise, every glance sharp. The myths about humans being courageous, stubborn, and unpredictable now had a living proof standing before her. Yet the reality of his presence was even more powerful than any story she had read. Hale slowly walked along the corridors, inspecting panels and touching the ancient walls as though reading their history by feel. The Volari crew followed him, hesitant but curious, unsure whether they were witnessing a miracle or a potential danger. His armor, though scratched and faded, carried the insignia of the Terran Defense Force, a symbol that had not been seen in centuries. I need information, Hale said, his voice calm but commanding. Ship systems, weapons, crew, tell me everything. Sarah stepped forward, feeling both awe and responsibility. Captain Hale, we've scanned the station. It's ancient, older than any records we have. The distress signal you activated, it's calling out to unknown receivers. We don't know who or what might respond. Hale nodded slowly. Good, we must prepare. Survival requires readiness. The words felt heavy but clear. It was not arrogance, it was certainty, honed from experience. Saris realized this man had fought battles, faced impossible odds, and yet here he stood, alive. The crew began to trust his instinctive commands, following without hesitation. Meanwhile, the Luminara's sensors picked up distant blips, Sarah squinted at the readings. Captain, something is approaching. Unknown ships. Fast-moving. Maybe armed. Hale's eyes narrowed. Then we train. We prepare. Do not panic. Fear is useless. Within the hour, the first ships appeared on the sensors. They were sleek, fast, and heavily armed. Pirate raiders, scavengers using stolen Valeri technology. The warning lights flashed red as the Luminara prepared its shields. Cirrus's heart raced. They were outnumbered, and her crew was not trained for battle at this scale. But Hale did not show fear. Instead, he began coordinating the defense with precision that made Cirrus feel both amazed and nervous. Deploy drone units to intercept, he ordered. Activate forward shields. Position ships in a staggered formation. Predict their path, not react to it. The Valeri crew followed his instructions with efficiency they had never achieved before. Drones whirred into motion, energy shields activated, and targeting systems calibrated under Hale's guidance. In minutes, the pirates were closing in for attack. When the first salvo of plasma bolts fired toward them, Hale was ready. Fire on their engines, not the hulls. Disable, do not destroy, he commanded. The strategy was unconventional but effective. The pirate ships faltered, their engines damaged, forced to retreat. Cirrus could hardly believe what she was witnessing. A human, thought extinct, had saved them with strategy centuries ahead of modern Valeri tactics. Her respect for Hale grew, but so did her curiosity. Captain, tell me, how did humans survive wars like this? How did your people endure such odds? Hale paused, thinking. Adaptation, unity, and courage. We faced stronger enemies, impossible odds, and still, we survived. It was never about strength, only resolve, and willingness to fight for what mattered. The words resonated with Cirrus. Her people valued knowledge, intelligence, and careful planning, but Hale spoke of something deeper, a raw, determined spirit that refused to surrender. She had read about bravery in history books, but here it was alive, walking, breathing, and commanding them. Over the next days, Hale helped the Valeri understand tactics beyond their simulations. He taught them how to anticipate enemy movements, how to use terrain, or in space, asteroid fields and nebulae, to their advantage, and how to fight with creativity rather than relying solely on machines. The crew adapted quickly, inspired by his example. Even simple drills became lessons in strategy. Do not aim where they are, Hale explained during target practice. Aim where they will be. Predict. Control the battle, do not let it control you. The Valeri found themselves thinking differently, moving differently, trusting their instincts. Under Hale's guidance, they became more than a fleet. They became a force to be reckoned with. Cirrus observed this transformation with a mix of admiration and humility. She realized the legends had been right. Humans were not just fighters, they were catalysts, capable of inspiring others to rise beyond their limits. Yet the victory against the pirates was only the beginning. The signal Hale had triggered reached further than anyone had expected. Across the void of space, sensors detected an approaching fleet, larger, more organized, and far more dangerous. The Valeri's defensive measures would not be enough. Cirrus and Hale watched the approaching blips in silence. These are not pirates, Hale said quietly, his eyes focused. These are hunters. And they know of me. Cirrus's brow furrowed. Hunters who would hunt you after so many centuries? Hale's jaw tightened. Zarth, old enemies. They feared humans. And now they know. I am awake. The Zarth were a powerful, aggressive race. Legends spoke of their conquests and of the last human wars against them. Wars that had shaped the boundaries of galaxies. The thought that Hale could still be a target centuries later sent a chill through Cirrus's crew. Yet Hale did not hesitate. We prepare, he said. We do not flee. Fleeing is weakness. Stand, fight, and survive. Cirrus swallowed hard. Captain, the odds, they do not matter, he interrupted firmly. Survival comes from courage and cleverness, not numbers. As the enemy fleet emerged from the nebula, the Luminara moved into formation under Hale's guidance. Every decision was precise: shields, weapons, maneuvering, communication, executed as if rehearsed 1,000 times. The Valeri crew followed his lead, fighting in ways they had never imagined. The battle began with energy pulses streaking across the void. The Zarth ships were fast, their weapons deadly. Yet Hale anticipated their moves. Divert their focus. Force them apart. Exploit gaps in formation, he shouted. His words, simple yet powerful, became a rhythm for the Volari crew. Saris felt a strange exhilaration. Fear was present, yes, but it was tempered by trust. Trust in the last human warrior. She realized that courage was contagious and Hale's presence was proof. The crew fought not just to survive, but because they believed they could win. During a critical moment, a Zarth ship managed to breach the Luminara's outer shields. A direct hit could have destroyed the command deck, but Hale acted quickly. Using the station's residual defenses and manual override, he redirected energy flows, creating a buffer that absorbed the attack. The crew watched in awe, realizing that this human had mastered tactics even centuries beyond their technological level. As the battle raged, Hale's voice carried across the deck. Do not despair. Every weakness has a solution. Every threat has a counter. Think, adapt, survive. By the time the enemy fleet retreated, it was clear who had turned the tide. The Luminara, though battered, remained intact. The Volari crew stood in stunned silence, looking at Hale not as a stranger, but as a hero, living proof of courage and skill. Saris approached him, her voice barely above a whisper. Captain Hale, you've changed everything. Not just for us, but for how we see the universe, and ourselves. Hale gave a small nod, a faint smile touching his lips. Humans always inspire, when they remember to fight for what matters. The hours that followed were filled with debriefing, repairs, and reflection. Saris spent time walking the station's corridors with Hale, learning more about him, and listening to stories of a past she had only known through myth. He spoke of battles fought across star systems, of comrades lost, of courage found in moments of desperation. Each tale painted a picture of a species that had endured, adapted, and never surrendered. Saris found herself thinking differently about the legends she had dismissed. Humans were not just brave, they were catalysts for greatness. They were reminders that courage, ingenuity, and the will to survive could change the course of history. By the time the crew retired for rest, the Luminara floated silently amidst the stars, a small beacon of life in a vast dark void. Outside, the galaxy remained indifferent, full of dangers and mysteries yet to be faced. But within the station, for the first time in centuries, a human walked among the stars, awake, aware, and ready. And for Saris Val, the myths were no longer just stories. They were truth, alive, commanding, and standing right before her. The Luminara had barely recovered from its first encounter when the Volari sensors picked up a fleet moving through the nebula. The ships were sleek, dark, and disciplined. Unlike the scattered, reckless pirate raiders, these vessels moved with precision, their formations deliberate and efficient. Saris Val leaned over the holographic display, her stomach tightening. Captain, this is not a small band of raiders, she said. These ships? They're organized, trained, and they're coming straight for us. Hale's eyes narrowed as he scanned the incoming fleet. Zarth, he muttered. Old enemies. From a war long past. They believed humans extinct. They were wrong. The name sent a chill through Saris's crew. The Zarth were known across the sector as ruthless conquerors. Their empire once feared even by the largest civilizations. Tales of their victories and brutality filled Valerie history books. Yet Hale's tone carried something more than recognition. It carried experience. He had fought them before. They will not stop, Hale continued. They will pursue, until they find what they seek. And they will not show mercy. Saris swallowed hard. What do we do? Hale's gaze swept the control panels as if seeing the battlefield before it happened. We fight, but not like we have before. We adapt. We use what they do not expect, and we survive. Over the next hours, Hale taught the crew how to modify the ship's systems for maximum efficiency. He demonstrated tactics the Volari had never used, splitting formations to confuse enemies, using asteroid belts as natural shields, and deploying electronic countermeasures to mislead tracking systems. The crew watched in awe as the human rewrote the rules of space combat in real time. Predict their next move, he instructed during drills. Do not react, anticipate. A hunter is strongest when its prey is unsure. Make them unsure. Saris felt a mixture of fear and admiration. Her people had relied heavily on technology, trusting calculations and AI predictions. Hale taught them that intuition, Courage and creativity could turn even desperate odds into an advantage. As the Luminara approached a dense nebula for cover, the Zarth fleet made their presence clear. Ships emerged from the haze, weapons primed, engines glowing. The fleet moved like a shadow, surrounding the Luminara from multiple directions. Hale took command. We create a path. We make them believe we are trapped. Then we turn the trap on them. Saris watched as he coordinated her crew, assigning positions, adjusting shields, and timing counterattacks. The Volari, once cautious and hesitant, moved with a newfound confidence. Hale's influence was undeniable. The first exchange of fire illuminated the nebula with streaks of energy. Zarth ships fired with precision, attempting to disable the Luminara quickly. Hale predicted their movements, giving the Volari crew just enough time to evade critical strikes while returning fire. Do not destroy, he commanded. Disable. Make them retreat, or make them follow your plan. The tactic worked. Several Zarth ships faltered, their engines damaged, leaving gaps in the formation. Hale seized the opportunity, maneuvering the Luminara through the openings and launching surprise counterattacks. The Zarth hesitated, unsure how a single Volari ship could move with such coordination and foresight. After the battle, the crew gathered in the control room, their expressions a mix of exhaustion and amazement. Saris approached Hale. Captain, your tactics, they're incredible. How did your people survive against such enemies? Hale's eyes darkened with memory. Humans fought with everything. Every resource. Every ounce of courage, we knew. Surrender was not an option. Even when numbers were against us. We found a way. The words carried weight. Saris realized that courage was not only in the fighting, it was in the will to endure, to adapt, and to inspire others to do the same. Hale's presence had transformed the crew, turning their fear into determination. Yet the Zarth threat was far from over. Hale's sensors detected a larger command fleet moving through a nearby wormhole. These were no mere raiders. They were the heart of the Zarth military. Their target was clear, the last known human. We cannot let them reach me, Hale said quietly. If they capture me, they will destroy everything. Saris frowned. Then we fight. Together, Hale nodded. Together. But we must use their strength against them. Deception. Speed. Cunning. We are not just surviving. We are setting the stage for victory. Over the following days, the Luminara evaded the main Zarth fleet while sending out tactical signals to gather intelligence. Hale trained the crew relentlessly, combining Terran combat techniques with Volari technology. The humans' methods emphasized creativity and courage rather than rigid protocols. Think like they do not expect, Hale instructed during a training session. Move like shadows. Strike like lightning. Survival is not about waiting. It is about acting first, and acting boldly. The Volari began to see results. Patrol drones that once followed predictable paths now used erratic movements, confusing enemy scanners. The crew learned to adapt in real time, turning simple maneuvers into strategic advantages. Saris watched the transformation with pride. Hale's guidance was more than training. It was awakening a spirit they never knew they had. Then, one evening, sensors detected an incoming message, not from the Zarth fleet, but from a distant colony. It was a warning. Zarth forces were moving to reclaim a strategic outpost where valuable technology had been hidden during the old wars. The outpost contained weapon systems and archives of knowledge that could tip the balance of power. Hale studied the holographic display, analyzing the distances and fleet positions. They want the outpost, he said. If they take it, it will strengthen them. We cannot allow it, Saris nodded. Then we go. But we are outnumbered. What can we do? Hale's gaze hardened. We use what they expect. Against them. Divide their attention. Draw some away, then strike the main fleet when it is vulnerable. The plan was bold, perhaps reckless, but it carried the genius of centuries of battlefield experience. Saris had no doubt that Hale could execute it. She just hoped the crew could follow him. As they approached the outpost, Hale walked along the deck, observing the crew. Remember, he said, his voice steady, fear is normal. Courage is choosing to act despite fear. Trust in your training, trust in each other, and trust in me. The Volari looked at him with new respect. The myths of humanity had become reality. They were about to face a fleet that had terrified civilizations for generations, and yet, with Hale leading them, they felt hope. something they had never experienced in the Orion sector before. The battle that followed was fierce. Zarth ships fired relentlessly, attempting to breach the Luminara's defenses. Hale's strategy unfolded with precision. He used the nebula to mask their movements, splitting the Zarth fleet and luring a portion into a trap of ion mines and energy pulses. The Valari crew executed each maneuver flawlessly, inspired by Hale's calm and determination. At the heart of the fight, Hale led a boarding party into a disabled Zarth command ship. Using a combination of Valari technology and his own tactical knowledge, they seized control of the vessel, disrupting enemy communications and creating chaos in the fleet. Saris watched from the bridge, her breath caught in awe. "He's doing the impossible," she whispered. After hours of fighting, the Zarth retreated, their command ship damaged, their fleet disoriented. The Luminara and its crew had survived against overwhelming odds. The victory was not just in firepower, it was in ingenuity, courage, and unity. Hale stood quietly on the bridge, surveying the aftermath. "This is what survival means," he said softly. "Adaptation, teamwork, courage, and the will to never surrender." Saris approached him, a sense of gratitude and admiration swelling within her. "Captain, your people, your methods, they're incredible. You've shown us what it means to fight, not just with weapons but with heart and mind." Hale nodded. "Humans always did, and now, your people can too." As the Luminara drifted through the stars, Hale's presence brought more than strategy. It brought inspiration. The Valari crew had witnessed the legacy of humanity firsthand. Courage that could not be calculated, tactics that could not be simulated, and a spirit that refused to surrender. Outside, the galaxy remained indifferent, filled with dangers and mysteries yet to be faced. But within the ship and within the hearts of those who had fought beside him, a new understanding had been born. The last human warrior was not just a survivor. He was a symbol, a living reminder that courage, determination, and the will to endure could change the fate of entire civilizations. And the shadow of the Zarth Empire loomed larger than ever, waiting for the next confrontation. But the Luminara, guided by the last human, was ready. They would not run. They would not surrender. They would fight. And they would endure. The calm that had followed the Luminara's last victory was short-lived. Saris Val stood on the observation deck watching the distant glimmer of stars through the hull. For the first time she understood the full weight of what they faced. The Zarth Empire was mobilizing, and they were coming not as raiders, but as an unstoppable force determined to eliminate the last human. Hale, now fully integrated with the crew, moved with the confidence of a leader who had fought wars most could only read about in history books. His presence had transformed the Luminara from a research vessel into a battle-ready command ship. Every officer, every crew member followed his guidance with trust and precision. "The Zarth will not hesitate," Hale said quietly, standing beside Saris. His voice was calm but carried a weight that made her shiver. "They remember humans as a threat. They believe I am the last obstacle, and they will not stop until that threat is gone." Saris nodded. "We won't let them take you, or destroy us. We fight together." Hale's gaze softened slightly. "Good, unity is stronger than fear." The Luminara moved into position near the edge of a shattered star system, a perfect place for ambush. Hale had studied the Zarth formations, predicting their movements with uncanny precision. "They will think we are cornered," he said. "That will be their mistake. We will not fight as one. We will fight as many." The crew spent hours preparing. Energy shields were strengthened, weapon systems recalibrated, and automated drones positioned to intercept incoming fire. Hale worked with engineers modifying existing Valari technology to be more efficient. Every adjustment, every plan, reflected centuries of Terran military experience combined with Valari ingenuity. "Remember," Hale said to the crew, "speed and surprise win battles, but courage wins wars. You must act, even when fear whispers in your mind." The first signs of the Zarth fleet appeared as shadows in the distance, moving with a deadly grace. Hundreds of ships, coordinated, precise, and relentless. The Luminara's sensors detected them early, giving them a precious window to execute Hale's plan. "Deploy the decoys," Hale commanded. "Split the fleet. Force them to commit their forces, then strike at their weak points." Valari drones zipped into space, broadcasting false signals, creating the illusion of multiple ships where there were only a few. The Zarth, seeing these decoys, adjusted their formation, exposing critical gaps. Hale directed the Luminara to exploit these openings. Energy weapons flared across the void as the battle erupted. The Zarth fired relentlessly, but the crew, guided by Hale, moved with confidence and precision. Each maneuver, each counterattack reflected a combination of instinct, intelligence, and sheer determination. Saris watched in awe as Hale coordinated the battle. "Do not target their hulls directly," he ordered. "Target their engines, their weapons arrays, make them vulnerable, and force them to retreat." A group of Zarth fighters broke through the outer defenses, aiming for the Luminara's command deck. Hale acted instantly, deploying a coordinated counterattack that disabled their engines mid-flight. The ships spiraled out of control, colliding with each other and creating chaos in the enemy formation. "Excellent," Saris muttered under her breath. The crew was performing at a level they had never reached before, inspired by the humans' leadership. Hours passed, the battle raging across asteroid belts and through ion storms. The Zarth adapted, but Hale always seemed one step ahead. He had predicted their strategy, their priorities, and their weaknesses. It was not just technology that gave them an edge. It was his understanding of courage, instinct, and unpredictability. During a critical moment, a massive Zarth cruiser targeted the Luminara with a powerful energy beam. Capable of penetrating even the strongest shields, Hale calculated the trajectory, timing, and angle in seconds. "Divert all power to aft shields." "Wait, now," he commanded. The shields flared just in time, absorbing the impact and saving the ship from destruction. The crew erupted in cheers, but Hale did not celebrate. He turned to Saris, voice calm but firm. "This is not victory yet. The battle is won, but the war continues." Saris realized the truth in his words. The Zarth fleet was only partially defeated. The main command ship was still operational, coordinating reinforcements. And somewhere in the shadows of space, a greater threat awaited. The one that had forced humanity into hiding centuries ago. "Captain." "What now?" Saris asked, her tone serious. Hale's gaze was steady. "We strike where they least expect. Divide, confuse, and take out their command core. If we disable it, the fleet will falter. But someone must lead the attack directly. Someone they know is alive." Saris felt a pang of fear. "You mean you?" Hale nodded. "It is my duty. Humans fight for survival and for others. I will lead, but we all fight together. No one is alone." The next day, the Luminara approached the Zarth command sector. Hale organized the crew into specialized teams, some to handle drone interference, others to target critical weapons arrays, and a small elite group to board the command ship itself. Saris joined the boarding team, unwilling to let Hale face the greatest danger alone. As they neared the command ship, the Zarth opened fire, energy beams tearing through space. The Luminara's shields held, but the crew felt the intensity of the assault. Hale's instructions were clear and precise. Timing, coordination, courage, trust in your skills and trust in each other. The boarding team moved in, guided by Hale's experience. They encountered resistance, but his strategies allowed them to advance efficiently. Each encounter was met with clever tactics, using the enemy's momentum against them, turning their aggression into weakness. Inside the command ship, Hale's knowledge of ancient Terran combat systems became invaluable. Security doors, automated defense drones, and control panels responded to his commands in ways the Valeri had never anticipated. It was as if the human had rewritten the battlefield with every step he took. Finally, they reached the control core of the Zarth ship. Hale analyzed the systems, explaining each function to Saris. "This is the heart of their fleet. Disable it, and their forces will falter." Saris and the team began working under Hale's guidance, rerouting power, disabling communications, and creating a chain reaction that would collapse the enemy's command network. The process was tense, with Zarth reinforcements attempting to breach their defenses. Each second felt like an eternity. Hale remained calm, directing the team with confidence and authority. "Do not rush. Precision is stronger than haste. Courage and calculation together win battles." At the final moment, Hale made the critical adjustment, redirecting the ship's energy to create an overload in the main control core. The explosion disabled the Zarth fleet's command systems, causing their ships to retreat in confusion. The battle was over. The Luminara floated amidst the debris of the shattered engagement, damaged but victorious. Cirrus turned to Hale, admiration and gratitude evident in her eyes. "Captain, you did it. You've changed the course of this battle. This war." Hale shook his head. "No, we did it. Together. Courage, trust, unity. That is what wins wars, not one person alone." The crew of the Luminara cheered, their fear replaced with confidence and inspiration. They had witnessed history, the return of a human warrior, a living legend, and the power of courage and determination to change the odds against impossible enemies. Yet as they celebrated, Hale's thoughts were already on the future. The Zarth Empire was not destroyed, only delayed. Their technology, their numbers, and their ruthlessness remained a threat. The next challenge would require more than strategy. It would require the full spirit of humanity and Valeri combined. Cirrus approached Hale quietly, standing beside him on the observation deck. "Captain, you've shown us what it means to fight with courage. How do we continue?" Hale looked out at the stars, his expression calm but resolute. "We adapt, we prepare, and we fight. Fear is always present, but courage is stronger, remember. The heart of humanity is not in survival alone. It is in standing for what matters, and inspiring others to do the same." Cirrus nodded, feeling the truth of his words settle in her mind and heart. The Luminara, battered but unbroken, would continue the fight. And with the last human warrior guiding them, they were no longer just a crew. They were a force capable of facing any shadow, any threat, and any enemy that dared challenge them. Outside, the stars continued to shine, silent witnesses to the courage, sacrifice, and determination that had just altered the course of a galactic war. Within the ship, a new era had begun, one where human bravery, Valeri skill, and unity forged a path through darkness toward hope, survival and victory, and somewhere in the distance, the Zarth fleet regrouped, unaware that their greatest adversary had not only returned, but had also inspired a new generation to rise. One that would not bow, not flee, and not surrender. The Luminara floated silently in the shadow of the Zarth stronghold, a fortress orbiting a shattered star. The fleet had regrouped, but Hale's presence meant the Zarth command was vulnerable. Inside the Valeri command deck, the crew moved with a quiet determination. They had fought hard, survived impossible odds, and now faced the ultimate challenge. "Captain Hale," Sarah said, her voice steady but tense. "This is it. One wrong move, and we could lose everything." Hale nodded, his eyes scanning the enemy stronghold. "True, but victory has never been easy. Courage and action are stronger than fear. We do what must be done." The boarding teams prepared for infiltration. Valorie's stealth suits were adjusted, weapons checked, and navigation paths plotted. Hale led the team personally, moving with the confidence of a warrior who had faced annihilation countless times. Cirrus joined him, unwilling to let him confront this threat alone. The fleet remained outside, providing cover. Drones and energy pulses created diversions, drawing the Zarth forces away from the main entry points. Hale's strategies relied on precision, timing, and trust in his team. Every movement was calculated to minimize risk while maximizing effectiveness. As the boarding party entered the stronghold, Hale moved swiftly, his experience evident in every step. Security systems activated, but he bypassed them effortlessly, using knowledge of Terran combat systems that had been lost to time. The Valeri followed closely, trusting his guidance. "This way," Hale instructed, pointing to a maintenance corridor leading to the core.
"Speed. Stealth.
Control. Do not alert unnecessary forces." The corridors were tense and silent, the only sounds being the soft hum of machinery and the crew's quiet breathing. The closer they approached the command core, the more resistance they encountered. Automated drones patrolled the hallways, and armed Zarth soldiers moved in calculated patterns. Hale paused at a junction. "Wait, watch. Learn their rhythm." His words were calm, but every muscle was tense, prepared for instant action. Then, with precision, he led the team past the patrols, using shadows and timing to avoid detection. Finally, they reached the heart of the stronghold, the control core. It pulsed with energy, the lifeblood of the Zarth fleet's operations. Hale examined the systems, pointing out critical nodes to Cirrus and her team. "This is it," he said quietly. "Disable this, and the fleet falls into disarray." As the team began rerouting power and disabling systems, alarms suddenly blared. A Zarth patrol had discovered their presence. Combat erupted instantly. Energy pulses, blaster fire, and rapid movement filled the corridors. Hale led the defense, coordinating the team with unmatched skill. "Hold positions. Cover each other," he shouted. "Do not rush. Precision first. Survival next." Saris watched in awe as Hale fought and commanded simultaneously, his movements fluid, his mind calculating. Every obstacle was met with strategy and courage. Even when a blast threatened to breach the corridor, Hale redirected energy flows to protect his team. Hours passed, the battle intensifying within the command core. Finally, the critical systems were compromised. Hale initiated the overload sequence, preparing to collapse the Zarth fleet's central control. "Everyone, back to safe positions," he instructed. "Once activated, energy will cascade. Control will be lost, but the shockwave could be deadly." The team moved swiftly, trusting Hale's experience. As the sequence began, the control core glowed intensely, energy surging through conduits and panels. Hale monitored the process, ensuring maximum effect. At the last moment, a massive Zarth officer appeared, attempting to stop the sequence. Hale engaged him directly, moving with skill and precision honed through centuries of combat experience. Their confrontation was intense, a clash of strength, tactics, and courage. Hale emerged victorious, but the effort left him weakened, his energy reserves critically low. "Captain, we need to move," Saris called, urgency in her voice. Hale nodded, directing the team as they evacuated the control core. The overload reached its peak, sending a wave of energy that disabled the Zarth fleet systems. Ships drifted, weapons offline, and communication networks collapsed. The Zarth, once a formidable empire, were thrown into confusion. As the team returned to the Luminara, Hale's movements slowed. Saris noticed the strain. "Captain, you're hurt. You need medical attention." Hale shook his head weakly. "No. Mission. First, humanity. Survives, and so, must we?" The crew escorted him to the medbay, where Valeri medical teams worked to stabilize him. Saris stood by, silently grateful for his leadership, courage, and sacrifice. Hale's condition was serious, but his spirit remained strong. Outside, the Zarth fleet, leaderless and disorganized, began retreating. The threat had been neutralized, at least for now. The Luminara had not only survived, but turned the tide against an enemy that had terrified civilizations for centuries. In the quiet that followed, Saris reflected on everything she had witnessed. The last human warrior had not only led them to victory, but had inspired courage, unity, and determination in every Valeri crew member. Legends were not merely stories, they were a reflection of what could be achieved when courage and intelligence combined. Hale, though weakened, smiled faintly at her. "Saris, remember, courage inspires, not just victory but hope, for those who follow." Saris nodded, feeling the truth in his words. The human's journey was ending, but his legacy would continue. She gently touched his hand. "Captain, you've given us more than strategy. You've given us the spirit to endure, to fight, and to never give up." Hale's eyes softened, a faint glow of satisfaction in his gaze. "Good, then humanity. Lives in spirit, not only in flesh." The next days were spent repairing the Luminara, tending to the crew, and securing the remnants of the Zarth technology. Hale's presence remained central, guiding decisions, sharing knowledge, and ensuring the crew was prepared for whatever might come next. Even in recovery, he taught that survival and courage required constant vigilance and unity. Months later, Saris Val stood before the Valeri Council, presenting the findings of their mission and the heroism of Captain Ryan Hale. Statues and memorials began to take form across colonies, honoring the last human and the lessons he had imparted. Scholars studied his strategies, inspired by the ingenuity and courage of a species once thought extinct. Saris's final journal entry, written in her own hand, captured the essence of what she had learned. He was no myth. He was proof that legends walk among stars, and that humanity's spirit never truly dies. Courage, unity, and determination can turn the tide against any foe. We have learned from him, and we will carry his lessons forward. Humanity is not just a story, it is a legacy. The galaxy had witnessed a resurgence of hope. The Zarth Empire, though still formidable, had been humbled. The Valeri were stronger, wiser and more courageous than ever before. And in the hearts of all who had fought alongside him, Captain Ryan Hale's legacy endured. In quiet moments aboard the Luminara, Cirrus would often find herself gazing at the stars, remembering the last human warrior. His sacrifice, guidance, and courage had changed everything. He had proven that even a single individual, armed with determination, intelligence, and bravery, could inspire civilizations and alter the course of history. The Luminara sailed through the cosmos, a symbol of unity, courage, and the enduring legacy of humanity. Wherever the crew went, the stories of Captain Hale traveled with them, spreading hope and inspiration across star systems. Though the last human had faced centuries of oblivion, his spirit had become eternal. The galaxy would remember that legends walk among the stars, and that courage, true courage, could light even the darkest void, and somewhere, far beyond the reaches of known space, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter, as if acknowledging the enduring spirit of humanity, alive, unbroken, and victorious.